Okay, translation is possible in both French and English.
Voilà, je tiens à vous remercier en français pour cette invitation. Et je pense que pour démarrer, je vais juste donner une idée globale sur la partie infrastructure et son importance dans le cadre surtout du développement des chaînes de valeur de l'hydrogène vert, en donnant un zoom sur le cas du Maroc. Donc, comme vous voyez sur la carte, en fait, sur la slide, le Maroc avait donc lancé cette offre dans le cadre d'une circulaire de monsieur le chef de gouvernement. Cette offre Maroc, en fait, elle a identifié justement l'ensemble des infrastructures nécessaires pour accompagner le développement de la filière. Donc, la logique même du développement de l'hydrogène vert, c'est une logique de décarbonation globale au niveau mondial. Donc, il y a certainement des zones productrices, exportatrices et des zones qui vont consommer, qui vont utiliser, des industries et des régions, des pays. Et du coup, on sera obligé finalement de produire, de transporter et de stocker dans des endroits différents. Alors, qui dit transporter, on doit soit transporter de l'électricité verte, tout simplement, donc transporter l'électron. Et dans ce cas, nous avons besoin d'infrastructures électriques qui sont nécessaires pour ça. Soit on va transporter de la molécule. Et donc, selon la forme de la molécule, on aura besoin soit d'un transport par pipe, s'il s'agit de l'état gazeux, soit d'un transport par navire ou autre, s'il s'agit donc de l'état liquide, tel que l'ammoniac ou le e-méthanol, etc. Donc, différentes infrastructures sont nécessaires pour accompagner. Et à cela se rajoute, quand il s'agit d'un pays qui souffre du stress hydrique comme le Maroc, se rajoutent d'autres infrastructures importantes qui sont les infrastructures hydriques pour la production de l'eau dessalée, pour le cas de figure, qui sera utilisée dans tous les procédés, que ce soit de l'électrolyse, de refroidissement, etc. Donc voilà, nous avons tous les types d'infrastructures qui sont là pour accompagner et qu'on aura l'occasion, je pense, de discuter en détail dans le cadre de ce panel. Pour zoomer davantage sur la partie portuaire, alors les ports, comme vous l'avez bien dit, bien sûr, c'est un maillon clé dans la chaîne logistique, surtout pour des pays maritimes tels que le Maroc et d'autres pays qui sont présents aujourd'hui. Et le port va intervenir durant toute la chaîne de valeur de cette industrie. D'abord, en phase de développement des projets hydrogène vert, on aura besoin des ports pour acheminer tous les équipements, toutes les marchandises, tous les intrants nécessaires à l'implantation des fermes éoliennes ou en tout cas de toute la partie production même de l'énergie verte. On aura besoin aussi des ports pour importer ou transporter entre régions le matériel nécessaire, que ce soit les électrolyseurs, que ce soit les machines, que ce soit toutes les installations relatives à cette industrie, surtout d'électrolyse. Donc ça, c'est vraiment le besoin du port pour accompagner déjà le développement des projets au niveau d'une région donnée. Après, quand les projets sont déployés, l'objectif, c'est de produire, bien sûr, des produits finis, en l'occurrence l'ammoniac vert ou le e-méthanol, etc. Donc, et ces produits-là, ils doivent être acheminés là où ils seront effectivement consommés, là où ils seront déployés, encore une fois, à travers donc, les ports. Et ici, voilà, c'est le cas en fait qui vient à l'esprit tout de suite quand on parle de l'hydrogène vert. C'est les ports qui vont accompagner l'exportation pour le cas du Maroc ou l'importation pour le cas d'autres pays, notamment les pays européens qui souhaitent importer une bonne partie de cette production. Alors, en troisième lieu, bien sûr, le port doit accompagner toute l'activité qui va s'installer à l'occasion du développement de l'hydrogène vert dans une région donnée. Donc l'objectif final n'est pas seulement de produire de l'électricité verte et produire de l'hydrogène vert, mais aussi de créer une dynamique économique et industrielle autour de cette filière. Alors le port, il sera appelé, par exemple, si Il y a des projets d'intégration industrielle, soit pour la production ou l'assemblage de certains éléments nécessaires à la filière, soit carrément des industries qui sont, si vous voulez, consommatrices de cette énergie verte, telle que le DRI par exemple. Alors si on décide d'implanter une industrie, par exemple de traitement de minerais de fer, il faut déjà peut-être acheminer la matière première, la traiter, puis la réexporter avec toutes les autres matières qui sont nécessaires. Donc le port, à ce moment-là, il va intervenir pour accompagner le développement industriel et l'intégration industrielle au niveau en fait, de la région. Alors, pour le cas du Maroc spécifiquement, et à l'image de tous les nouveaux ports en fait, qui sont en cours de développement ou qui sont prévus, il y a toujours un bipôle entre le port, en tant qu'infrastructure de transport maritime, et une zone logistique et industrielle qui sera adossée au port pour justement pouvoir accueillir ces activités et présenter ou proposer donc une offre en foncier, une offre en service, une offre d'une zone bien aménagée pour justement drainer des investissements industriels et logistiques en la matière. Donc voilà, juste pour expliquer un peu le rôle que peuvent jouer les ports tout au long de la chaîne de valeur en fait, de l'hydrogène vert, à partir de l'installation, de la production, et puis ce qui est souhaitable pour les nouveaux projets qui verront le jour grâce à la présence de l'énergie verte et grâce à la présence de ces produits verts tels que l'hydrogène, l'ammoniac et le e-méthanol. Bien sûr, le port aussi, certains ports qui sont bien situés sur les routes maritimes vont jouer également un rôle important en termes de soudage des navires en carburant propre. Et notre souhait, c'est que l'hydrogène vert, à travers le e-méthanol et peut-être par la suite l'ammoniac vert, se positionnera comme un e-fuel de référence pour le transport maritime et pourquoi pas pour les autres formes de transport. Donc voilà grossièrement un peu le rôle des ports. Et pour les autres infrastructures, je pense que je vais laisser la slide d'avant pour accompagner la discussion. Merci.
Thank you, Ms. Amrani, for setting the scene for this panel. You also touched how Morocco, with its strategic geography, is positioned in this area. And you mentioned the importance of pipeline infrastructure, but mainly highlighted the strategic importance of ports, the condition to get Morocco ready either for local utilization or exports, and have at the end like a complete offer from installation to exports. And you also mentioned that very good located ports have good chances to play a critical role in the e-fuel area. Building on that, Mrs. Rijmakers, the port of Antwerp-Bruges has become a key hub in in Europe hydrogen vision. How can ports leverage their expertise in logistics, storage, and industrial integration, not just to receive imports, but also to help exporting hubs create the infrastructure required in time and in scale? Thank you.
Thank you for the question, and thank you for the invitation to speak here and to have infrastructure and ports included in the whole discussion in the energy transition and the green molecules. As Mrs. Amrani mentioned, ports can play a good role as a catalyst and an enabler in this energy transition. In Port of Antwerp-Bruges, we are the second largest port of Europe, where there's a constant need to adapt and innovate to be ready for the future. And this is in regards of infrastructure, but also in innovation, in transition, digital energy transition, to create a resilience to be ready for a long-term future. For energy transition, in the port itself, in the operations, we focus or we take pioneering actions that we can control. This year, we have a trial year with the different tugboats that we acquired over the last years. There are 4 tugboats that have pioneering technology. We have a tugboat on hydrogen, we have a tugboat on methanol, we have a tugboat on ammonia, and we have an electrical and hybrid tugboats. This year, we will test out which technology is the best performance, the most efficient, to share this information also with other ports to create a good use case for going forward. If we look at the global market for energy transition and molecules that's happening today for Port-aventure Bruges, there are 3 elements that are at the core of our strategy. First of all, we have the demand. Demand is driven by policy, but ultimately it is the industry, the transport industry that will create the offtake. So for us, from the beginning, it was very important to have the conversation with the industry. It has not been easy always to get the information, but as a port to prepare its infrastructure, to prepare for the future, it's good to consolidate, to have the information together, and to make a case towards the policy makers to show what we need to move forward, and also what the industry and the port sector is ready for to move forward. In the meantime, over the years, we have a very good idea, we have a very good relation also to exactly know what is needed and where can we go in the coming years. Based on that, we look at the required infrastructure. Infrastructure, terminals, pipeline in infrastructure for the new molecules or the new scale of molecules that will come. In that regard, we are lucky to have the experience of handling hydrogen and ammonia in our ports already. Hydrogen is, we have 500,000 tons of hydrogen that is treated in the port every year. That's used as a feedstock processing for the refineries, and also ammonia is used as a feedstock in our port for the chemical industry. So we'll have to be ready for a new kind of volumes of these molecules, but we have the experience of treating them and handling with them. The third element, of course, we have to look at the supplies. Which countries have the best potential? What's the progress in the project developments in the different countries that we see? But also, what's the approach and what's the strategy for the infrastructure development? Because where all the developers went to look for the best conditions for wind and solar, that was not always in the places on the global maritime routes or with the infrastructure in place. In Oman, where we are a shareholder in the port of Duqm, we were quite lucky to have invested in the port already 10 years ago, and the first phase of hydrogen projects is exactly located around this new port, which is good. At this moment, we can prepare the port and we can accommodate this project to facilitate in the export. It's not everywhere that the case that the infrastructure was already in preparation. So, but to look at regions in development, growing regions, that's an approach that we had already a long time before the hydrogen economy or movement came along. We believe that ports are nodal points, as you mentioned, but we are as strong as the connections that we have. So if the connections in the global supply chain are strong, Port-aventure Bruges will also grow. So we are very much in support of growing regions to make sure they create development and port platforms that can have a catalyst function to create, to serve for sustainable and inclusive development. When we look at infrastructure for the green molecules, only limited infrastructure is needed. But when you going to construct a port, it's always a strategic decision. You always have to look at how can this port serve the region? what can we do with what is economically, agriculture, logistically available. And we need the information of the projects, but we also need to look at the broader function that a port can bring. And that's an approach that we believe in, to make these decisions and to work a lot with public authorities to make sure that this infrastructure, this new infrastructure, would fit in the national and the regional agendas for the regions. But to come back to your questions, what interest do we have in looking at the both sides? We can prepare in Antwerp to be ready for import. We have 4 terminals that prepare for significant ammonia capacity to be imported by 2030. 2 of them plan to have their FID taken mid of next year. This timeline has been kept since the last 2 years when the projects have been announced. So the terminal capacity will be there. The connection to the cracker installation that's today operational in a pilot phase and will scale up for operations toward 2028. And also there the FID will be taken next year. That site is coordinated with the market and will be ready to receive. Then we have the other side. On the export side, there's also the developers that prepare their timeline and where we have to make sure that the infrastructure doesn't create a bottleneck. So there we do the matchmaking in timeline, in infrastructure, to work with private companies, to work with the public authorities to make sure that we can cooperate, that we can support an infrastructure and port the development that really serves the region. So if it is towards this new economy, the green molecules that are coming, or for a general port that is needed to serve the economic and inclusive development of a region, we are ready to commit with expertise, with management capacities, with a lot of training. Is it in the country itself or is it in Antwerp? And also to have a commitment on investment to show our long-term commitment towards the future. So we continue to have this approach also oriented towards the green hydrogen sector, and especially also with the project that we see here in Morocco.
Thank you. Thank you for this very detailed answer about the ports. You focused on something very important, which is the demand side. So yeah, to create the offtake, prepare the infrastructure, and this will allow this green hydrogen to move forward. You also spoke about the required infrastructure, and also you mentioned the fact that you are already a producer of green hydrogen and ammoniac, which bring experience on the table, and you are just going to do the shift to green molecules. You also mentioned the supply side and also the good experience in Oman. I don't know if you have another experience, but this one is very good. And yeah, also mentioned that the decision of port is very strategic and should take into consideration all the aspects of the supply chain in order to have the best decision made in order of green ports. And it's also like doing the matchmaking to secure the best results. So yeah, thank you for this very complete answer. Now I'm going to turn to Mr. Murahib. Successful corridor depends on not only on infrastructure, as you mentioned, but also on strong collaboration. How can stakeholders, governments, port authorities, and private investors align their strategies to ensure infrastructure is both bankable and in line with hydrogen objective? And are there any international benchmark worth learning from?
Thank you. Thank you very much, Sofiane. I will try to, it's very early still, so I will try to keep it short and practical. We are, when it comes to Power-to-X and H2, we all know that there is a lot of learning curves and learning while doing at the same time. And when we talk about infrastructure for power to X, the difficulty is not just the electrolyzer. We come to see now that behind this, there are other important assets or utilities, like the port, the transportation system, the desalination utility that needs to be coordinated. And there is a clear view now that no single project will be able to justify that the functioning of a single port. And therefore, there is a need for a mutualization, a cooperation, to avoid the mutualization of risk. The various risks that you can identify are, first of all, the volume risk for the port. What happens if there is one user that is not capable to deliver the volume for this particular port, and how is it working among the various users of the utility itself? The priority risk, is there, how do we allocate the risk between the various utilities, including in the port? The compliance risk, when we say that we want to export ammonia, it's like when we export to Europe, we export tomatoes. We need to meet the criteria of the compliance, the RFNBO rules, the hourly matching, the additionality, and location correlation. If one of the partners loses this piece, even on the port itself, you lose the green certificate that you will have on the other side from a European standpoint. And also there is a safety risk of the port itself. Multi-users for multi-projects. The port are hazardous cargo systems, very complex, that needs to be organized and secured for the good of all the players. So there are not yet, one-size-fits-all solutions. And using commonly various, the same utility is not new. The railway in the UK, in France, were sharing both the railway and also the telecommunication line. We have examples of cooperation around the world, like in Guinea, where we are working on the iron ore Simandou multi-user use of various facilities, which we created a very specific, tailor-made cooperation. So I think there is a need to at least think of various solutions. One of them is the creation of an SPV, a common SPV, including probably the first movers or the foundation partners and the state. And these anchor projects will be used to ensure a certain level of bankability for the platform itself. And then you will have also a sharing agreement, or what we call the multi-capacity user agreement, to define certain rules, like the take or pay. The foundation projects will have a mix of take or pay plus a capacity, a variable capacity, but the take or pay will have to justify the capacity to render the project bankable, so that the banks have a clear view on the revenue. There will certainly be a need of completion guarantee from the foundation project, a step-in rights for the lender, and the priority lender. Who has the priority in the use of the port? And this agreement will need to determine a fair and non-discriminatory use of the port, and guarantee open access to other users, not the foundation users, but other users, whether it is through a competitive bid or an auction for additional projects who would come. This could be a way for the foundation partners to get some money out of the bid itself for paying to get access to the port to the new users. There is a lot of items that needs. What happens, for example, if there is a conflict among the users, and in particular the foundation users who ensure the bankability? Is the regulator, the state, will intervene to try to find a solution first before they go to arbitration. This has been a solution in, for example, in the Simandou project, in the Lobito corridor in the south of Africa and central and south of Africa from DRC, Zambia to Angola, where the intervention and the presence of the state was key. And the last thing that I would like to mention is that insist also on the fact that those type of ports are again hazardous cargo systems, where the respect of certain specification and safety measures will have to be coordinated among at least as a rule among the SPV and the member of the foundation projects. So these are certain items. Having said that, today, if we look at Morocco, this is not the proposal today is not to have a there will be a mutualization, a discussion around the mutualization, and Mrs. El Amrani showed that the port will be used at a very early stage. But the real solution proposal is not yet proposed, because I think for the state it was just to offer a framework and start discussion to exchange and find a solution. Whereas in Oman, for example, they immediately created a platform with, as I mentioned, an SPV platform with a multi-user capacity agreement that was at the outset proposed to the proposal, and with a huge intervention of the state. Different solutions, different countries, different situations, but mutualization will be key in order to avoid mutualization of risk. If something happens in one of these projects, this will not only, if we cannot demonstrate bankability first, there is no project. Once the project is done, if something happened and has not been organized within the multi-user capacity agreement or contractually organized on the mutualization, it will block all the projects, and this will have huge consequences. By the way, some of the multi-users capacity agreement, and I will finish here, have specifically avoided cross-default among the project and organized the case of force majeure, etc. So there is a long way of discussions, but I think we have been innovating for the last 15 years, more than 15 years in Morocco around finding solutions to finance complex infrastructure, and we will do it.
Thank you, Mr. Mouraheb, for this very insightful answer about mainly the risks and how to make projects bankable. You mentioned that not a single project is going to justify the creation of ports, focused on the volume risk, on the priority risk, meet the criteria for export, for example, RFBNBO for Europe exportation, safety risk, very important, and that multi-users are going to benefit, mutualization of infrastructure. You mentioned also very important topic, which is the fair use of the ports, while letting other users to benefit. risk of conflict between the user and the important of the states like to intervene for arbitrage. And also regarding the bankability of projects, so you state how economic and financial metrics to make the project bankable. And speaking about financial metrics, I'm now going to turn to Mrs. Al-Jundi. So finance is, of course, as I mentioned, at the heart of the transformation, starting from European perspective. Pipelines are emerging as backbone of the hydrogen strategy. Could you share your view on the role of pipelines from the economics of transporting hydrogen to the European hydrogen backbone, and also the development of import pipelines that could connect exporting hubs like North Africa to Europe?
First of all, I want to thank you very much for organizing this important panel. I think yesterday one of the panels asked participants what was the biggest barrier to the emergence of the hydrogen projects, and that barrier was infrastructure. So hydrogen infrastructure, we're talking about port terminals, we're talking about storage, and also pipelines. We are now seeing clear examples, both in Morocco and worldwide, of advancement in terminals, very developed risk-sharing framework for port terminals as well. When it comes to pipelines make economic sense under some conditions. So the conditions are a few thousand kilometers of distances and large-scale hydrogen flows. If you look specifically, for example, at the Barcelona-Marseille pipeline, it's expected to handle 2 million tons of hydrogen per year, which is roughly equivalent to 40 let's say the production of 10 nuclear power plants, or 40 million ton equivalent petroleum, oil equivalent. And so we're talking large-scale infrastructure, and that allows to handle large volumes of hydrogen. For those volumes and those distances, we're talking about 6 cents more or less per kilogram of hydrogen per 1,000 kilometers for the 450 kilometers, which is roughly 10 times less than other transportation options for the same route. So 20 times less than other transportation options for the same route. So pipelines are really the cheapest option to handle hydrogen over those types of distances, thousands of kilometers, and for very large volumes. By far, the cheapest option. Recognizing this, and I think this is a well-recognized fact by all stakeholders, Europe is where these distances and these volumes make the most sense, because this is thousands of kilometers is the scale of Europe, basically, and Europe intends on making hydrogen one of the pillars of its energy supply. And recognizing this, European TSOs came together and published a joint network map in 2021, which proposes over 40,000 kilometers of hydrogen pipelines, part of which is new, part of which is repurposed pipelines. Now, 4 years later, there's a lot that has been happening in terms of signing MOUs, in terms of identifying specific corridors. When it comes to significant advancements, 5,000 kilometers have achieved European project of common interest status, which I believe most people would know that this is a very important milestone for projects, because it gives a signal that the projects have public support, that the projects have market support and political support. The status also streamlines permitting procedures and allows to get early development financing from the public sector. So these 5,000 kilometers roughly of pipelines are getting a clear momentum around them. They are located in the north, so from the Nordic states to the Baltic states, multiple projects to the east, from Ukraine to Germany, Slovakia, Czech Republic, both going towards Germany. In Germany itself, to the south, there is the South H2 corridor that links North Africa to Germany through Italy and Austria. And to the east, northeast of France, multiple corridors that link east of France to Germany, northeast of France to Belgium as well. And in the south of France, there's the Barmar project that I just talked about, the H2 Med project, which links France to Spain and Portugal. I believe I have most of the projects I mentioned. I think I'm missing some, right? Most of the projects that achieved PCI status. Beyond PCI status, some projects are even advancing further. So Barmar is the one I started with. A JV was created in July 2025. The project is getting also financing for development and engineering studies, marine surveys from the CEF facility. So it's the European facility that finances cross-border infrastructure. And so the Barmar investment decision, final investment decision, is expected around 2028. So that's clear advancement in terms of pipelines. The other pipeline is that's, I think, public consultations have just been launched for a pipeline linking Rotterdam to Germany, and the public consultation have been launched on the very first section of that hydrogen pipeline. When it comes to regulations, the European gas infrastructure package has been updated in 2024 and includes now hydrogen and other renewable gases in the package as well. Key regulations include an incentive to member states to have clear plans and to report on their plans to develop hydrogen infrastructure. The regulations also include third-party access rules for the hydrogen backbone.
Thank you, Mujahid, for this important answer about the pipelines, which is, as you mentioned, the biggest barrier of green hydrogen is how to develop pipelines. You explained the pipeline of Marseille and also a lot of examples of concrete project pipelines in Europe. And also you mentioned that the pipeline is the best solution for transport of high volume and also long distance. And also finally touched on regulation, and that now include hydrogen in Europe, and this is something that is going to be very important for the start of this industry. Now I'm turning to Dr. Nabi, so let's shift to the technical dimension and aspect that we did speak about, which is the power transmission. So there is an important debate on whether hydrogen corridors should rely on existing power transmission grids or instead develop dedicated islanded systems. So could you outline for us the main advantage and drawback of each option?
Thanks a lot for the question, and first of all, thanks a lot for the possibility to speak here at this distinguished panel. Yeah, we have been talking about ports, we have been talking about pipelines, but after all, we are generating electricity from the renewables, and so the question arises, so whether to integrate the electricity generation into the existing transmission network enhance the existing transmission network, or rely on a dedicated new one? And I think this is a very interesting question, also a strategic question. I'm here today as a part of the MENA-Links program, which is supported by the German government in the framework of the International Climate Initiative. And we are looking at the electricity system, at the power system in various countries, starting obviously with Morocco, Tunisia. We're looking at Turkey, Jordan, as well as Egypt. And we're looking at the challenges for the integration of renewables in the power system. And these challenges are, to a large extent, also defined by the variability of the resources, especially if we look at PV, which is obviously available only during the day, but also wind power has variability, which has to be taken into consideration. So when we use the power, and this could be either in the framework of PTX, producing hydrogen, producing ammonia, methanol, whatever, but also for other purposes, for industrial or residential purposes. I think it's important to look at the respective properties of the demand side, and that's what we look in MENA-Links. We're looking at the sector coupling options we have and the contribution the demand side has to align with the characteristics of the resource that feeds in. If we look at hydrogen production, obviously alkaline and PM electrolyzers have a flexibility. They can adjust their production. But also in industry, we're looking at other options, how the demand can adjust to the production. And I think this is important to take into consideration because at the end, it's an economic question. If we look at the overall system cost, we need to find a cost-optimal solution that integrates the cost not only of the generation, but also of the infrastructure. And now the question is whether we can use an existing grid, and the existing grid might be needed to reinforce, or we build a dedicated grid. And the answer to this question really depends on locational questions, obviously. So how far are the resources located from the load centers or the ports, wherever you want to use the renewables? And so in different countries, you can get different solutions. And this is also related to the question of storage. In some countries, you have the opportunity to store hydrogen, and I think this is very important because underground storage of hydrogen can deal with the variability question. Underground storage is a perfect seasonal storage, and it's a very good solution also to supply back power to the power system if required. So once we integrate the, let's say, hydrogen system into our electrical system, we can make use of the advantages. We could make use of the advantages of the demand side flexibility of electrolyzers. We could also be use of the possibility of underground storage of hydrogen. I think this is very important to consider. In our program, we're looking at all this kind of flexibilities we have from the industry. We're looking obviously at battery storage, which is like on a competitive side to hydrogen storage. We're also looking at industrial flexibility and also flexibilities we can take from buildings and the storage we have embedded in buildings. So not an easy question to answer. but I think an aspect worth looking at. And we are doing this in our Many Links program, which runs for more 4 years. And you will learn more of that in a dedicated site event we have today at 11. And happy to welcome you there and talk about this question in a bit more detail. Thank you.
Thank you for your answer related to power generation. That is slightly different from the question we asked before. And thank you for mentioning the experience in the MENA region, including Morocco. So you explained the reliability of the power, mainly solar. You mentioned also the hydrogen production, whether it will be alkaline or PM should be adjusted to the production, and the need to find the best cost, including generation and infrastructure, to have the perfect mix. And you also answered to the question regarding existing grid, saying that it will mainly need some reinforcements in order to get this existing grid ready. And finally, you mentioned the importance of storage as the perfect seasonal flexibility to the system. So thank you all for these first insights. We have looked at the strategic role of boards, the collaborative and financial frameworks, the technical choice shaping hydrogen corridors. So now, as we have a few minutes, maybe I'm going to turn to the audience, check if they have any specific questions to the panelists, whether it is general question for all the panelists or a specific question to one panelist. So yeah, you have the floor. I don't know if someone have the mic. So maybe the first question is difficult. So yeah, okay, good.
Good morning, and thanks for the very interesting panel. It was really, in fact, insightful, and you give us a lot of aspects regarding how boards can, in fact, contribute to the transition, the energy transition. My question is to Morocco, because you are doing an excellent work. Can we launch an initiative for Africa led by Morocco and other leading countries like Egypt, like those on the east and west coasts of Africa, to have green boards initiative, for example, for us? Can we have such an initiative led by this? Would you be interested in having this? I'm speaking because I'm from the Regional Center for Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency, and we are collaborating with sustainable energy centers in Africa toward similar objectives. So I think this would be very interesting. And of course, the colleagues from the board can also contribute to that. And for Christian, do you see that for the sector coupling, the boards could be considered as part of MENA Link dimension later on, maybe possibly in the future? Can we guide the countries into these directions? Because the main theme is the boards and infrastructure. We spoke about the infrastructure, of course, the electricity, the power grids, but the relation with boards. Could we have any synergies, interlinks between both of them? And thank you very much.
I can.
Yes.
On the green port question, I actually would like to ask a question back. What's a green port for you? So I think green port initiatives, we see them everywhere. We see good initiatives. We are doing the exercise also for Port of Duqm in Oman, also in Port of Antwerp. But it starts with defining for the port itself, what does a green port mean for us? We look at sustainability, we look at environment, you have the decarbonization aspect, then you have the green corridor aspect. So I would say yes, by all means. and I'm not looking to create another standard or create another framework, but a green port today can mean anything. And I think it's very important for the ports in Europe, but also in a different context in Africa, to have this high on their agenda. Even initiatives between the countries can stimulate and share best practices, I would say it's very much to be supported.
Just to complete effectively, since we are talking about certifications, so the cooperation is a must. So yes, I think that everybody should talk the same definitions, the same understanding of every part of the chain value of this green hydrogen. So even in the ports or outside the ports, we should have the same understanding. And in Morocco, of course, we are here to cooperate with all parties if it's valuable for the development, the global development of this new field, because this is a new business, a new field, so we should cooperate more to have this good comprehension. Thank you.
We have still some minutes left, so we are fortunate to have with us Mr. Claude Heller. I know he's very good experience in exports. Sorry, you are in the in the other side, but just as you know that you have a good experience in exports, if you can just speak briefly about the target markets for exports, if possible. Thank you. If someone can.
Yeah, thank you for the question. Target market for export, we'll talk about export from Morocco first, and so I believe it's Europe mainly, and within Europe, that's mainly Germany, which is a driving force, clearly. So, of course, you all know that. So there are the different way to target these importing markets have been presented before. Pipe, of course, it is the long-term solution, but it will take some time, and we know that here in Morocco. And in the meantime, other ways will have to be found under different forms. And so we will detail that a little bit in a side event soon about the Oriental project. And maybe I could add one word about infrastructure. And clearly, the main the main characteristic of exporting hubs to Europe are clearly integration between export and local industries, and it's mainly Middle East and South Africa, and for most of the projects, the combination between export of industry very often is green iron. So I know this is also one of the potential way to export hydrogen. And by the way, if you go to figures, of course, the cheapest way long-term is pipe. But if you look to energy, the cheapest way is green iron, actually.
Okay. Thank you, Claude. I don't know, I have only 3 minutes. I don't know if there is any remaining question specific. Yes, maybe one last question before closing.
Yes, thank you. Zakaria Washik from the European Organization for Nuclear Research. So I just put the question on the panels, but I guess I will read it. We are from the section of safety, and it's really interesting, the last speech that we had about safety risk. So We wanted just to know, do we have a working group about safety risk and how to mitigate risk, and what is the lesson learned of acquisition in Oman about the last port that you speak about? How do you deal about this risk of the new challenges about this energy, about facility management and other points?
I don't know if you can answer in 1 minute because you are late in time. Who wants to volunteer for this question?
Je vais répondre en français, c'est
Oui.
plus simple pour moi. Oui, effectivement, on a parlé surtout on a parlé beaucoup plus de la cohabitation entre les activités, entre ces différents produits au niveau d'une même zone. Et en l'occurrence, dans un port, par exemple, qui est censé exporter de l'ammoniac, du e-méthanol et puis traiter d'autres marchandises en parallèle. Donc il y a effectivement un enjeu de mutualisation et de cohabitation entre ces différents produits. En fait, pour se préparer à cela, nous avons déjà une expérience. Comme il a été dit, la majorité des pays et des ports, notamment, sont déjà habitués à des trafics énergétiques, des trafics chimiques. Au Maroc, par exemple, nous avons le premier port domestique du royaume, c'est le port de Jarf el-Asfar. Il traite déjà, en fait, tout ce que vous voulez, du charbon, du pétrole, de l'ammoniac, des phosphates, donc tout type de marchandises. Et donc, il y a effectivement un vrai enjeu de sécurité qui est géré dans le cadre des systèmes d'exploitation du port, de toute l'organisation, en fait, de sécurité par la capitainerie et l'autorité portuaire. Pour se préparer davantage, nous avons également initié des discussions avec l'OFPPT pour déjà commencer à faire des formations spécifiques aussi à la main-d'œuvre qui serait donc amenée à travailler, que ce soit dans le port ou dans les zones industrielles, et qui va manipuler et traiter ce genre de produits qui sont plus ou moins nouveaux pour certaines régions. Donc il y a la formation des ressources humaines qui doit être préparée. Il y a aussi le réaménagement ou le plan d'aménagement en fait des zones, et qu'elles soient portuaires ou industrielles, qui doit tenir compte de des particularités de ces produits. Et donc, on rentre encore une fois dans la discussion autour de la certification globale de la chaîne de valeur. Je pense qu'il faut mettre des standards au niveau international qui peuvent être appliqués par tout le monde pour la gestion de ce genre de trafic quand il s'agit de nouveaux produits. Maintenant, pour les produits qui sont déjà manipulés, ils changent juste de couleur. Ils étaient gris, ils deviennent verts. Donc ça, il n'y a pas un grand changement finalement, mais il y a un vrai enjeu de ressources humaines qui doivent être préparées à notre sens.
Parfait, merci. And thank you for respecting the time. I'm forced to conclude, and so thank you all for these very rich insights. We have seen today that ports are more than just transit points. They are strategic anchors of the global hydrogen economy. We heard about the need for integrated infrastructure planning, smart financing, and collaborative governance, as well as the technical trade-off that will shape future corridors. So the big takeaway is clear. Success in hydrogen corridors will depend on aligning policy, infrastructure, and investment around the central role of ports to turn potential into scalable, bankable, and competitive export platform. So with that, I would like to warmly thank all panelists once again, and thank you all for your attention. I hope this conversation help us to move forward to making WorldPtX corridor a reality. So big applause to our panelists today, and thank you very much.